Welcome back to another episode of the Jam with Lamb podcast. I am your host, Anthony Lamb from the metal band MAUL. Today, my guest is Michael Ruebke from the band Rana Danta. They're a newer band out of Fargo, North Dakota here. I actually know Mike through the scene, but he's actually my neighbor. Little fun fact, small world. So it's very awesome to have you over. Mike, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me, Lamb. It's awesome to be here.
Awesome. Tell me in your own words, if someone was just learning about the band, how would you explain the sound and kind of what you guys are about? If someone Googled you, what would they find?
Yeah, so Rana Danta kind of started as just kind of like a dream project from between Cord and I. This happened probably 3 years ago. We were like, hey, we should join this band. We should make this band. Midwest emo, super sad lyrics, but super pop punky driving bass riffs and guitar licks and the drum, all a full band sound instead of just the acoustic stuff that Cord and I used to work on. So we hit up Tyler and he wanted a drum. And then about a year later, Justin was on board, so we kind of just started jamming. So we all four of us bring just a crazy different vibe to this band because we've all been playing music for so long.
That's awesome.
Together. And so if you were to look us up, because we don't really have anything recorded quite yet, but Midwest emo, you're going to get the super sad lyrics, the shoegazy guitar licks, and just the overall kind of the sad boy vibes.
Cool. I love that. So who came up with the name?
I think it was Cord. Cord got really into frogs after being super into bird watching for many years. I think it was something like that. And he was like, I have this name and it's Spanish for frog, kind of, but it's kind of Spanglish, and it means frog, but it's called Rana Danta. We're like, hey, cool, we'll vibe with that.
Interesting.
So we kind of went with it. So we kind of call ourselves the Frog Boys.
A little bit about the band. You said you kind of started it with Cord, yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
How did you meet Cord, in general?
So I met Cord, years ago. So, I'm from Ada, and he's from, Thief River, around that area. And I think we met at an Ojada show in Grand Forks originally. Way back in the day. He was in high school. I was probably a year or two out. And then when he finally moved to Fargo, he was actually in the band with me called Grazing. And Grazing started as a side project, just for, two of us. And then he kind of joined us, the third member, as our drummer. So I've known Cord since probably 2015, 16.
Very cool. You said you're from Ada, Minnesota.
Ada, Minnesota.
How long did you live in Ada?
So I grew up there, born and raised, and I graduated high school in 2010, and that's when I moved to Moorhead and kind of got into the scene right away.
Wow. Did you ever see any shows in Ada? Any underground shows?
No. When I was in high school, I had a high school band, and we called ourselves the Cynical Lilies, and that's when I first started playing bass. It was 2008. And before us, there was a high school band kind of years prior, but we kind of started the game.
Yeah.
And we'd rent out the VFW or play in our little garage practice space. One of our buddies had an extra garage, a heated garage. So that's where our jam space was. We'd have shows there. But we kind of paved the way for Ada.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what's been going on there recently, but a town of 1,500.
Yeah.
There's not so much you can do.
Not super big. Who was the first person you ever saw play guitar? Do you remember?
Gosh. I think probably my uncle Tim when I was growing up. Yeah, I was young and they'd, babysit and stuff, and he had a couple guitars in his little...
Do you remember kind of what he was playing genre-wise, or was he just picking a little bit?
And he liked the metal stuff,
cool.
But the 80s and 70s, old hard stuff. I don't really remember bands off the top of my head, but I know Metallica was one of them.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Metallica album?
I do not.
Okay. That's an acceptable answer.
I'm just such a sad emo kid that, I went from listening to AC/DC with my dad to straight into My Chemical Romance.
Yep. Did you learn self-teach yourself, or did you take lessons at all?
Yeah, so I grew up playing alto saxophone. So I play that, from 5th grade or whatever age they get to you get to pick a instrument. And then in 9th grade, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do percussion. So I did pretty much everything except for the drum kit. You know, any cymbals, bass drum, anything you could think of. And then sophomore year, my band instructor was like, hey, do you want to play bass in the pep band? So I said yes.
Hell yeah.
He's like, all you have to learn is G and A, basically. G and A and E. I was like, that's easy. I can do this.
Hell yeah.
And then from there, you know, I was like, hey, let's start a band. And
yeah.
Self-taught for the most part. Yeah.
Sure. Cool. I'm a little bit of a mix myself. I definitely started on my own, but I mean, I feel like I didn't start really getting over humps until I had like certain people showing me.
Yeah.
There's sometimes like little things, you know, that can really make a big difference. What's like a piece of advice you would give to like someone that's thinking about playing guitar or they're just starting to play guitar?
Gosh, you know, I would say use your resources, use that internet. You know, I actually regret not ever taking bass lessons. I, you know, highly recommend reaching out. There's so many people on the internet who are doing lessons for cheap, if not free.
Yeah.
And then, you know, just like, if the instrument's not right, choose another one because you'll find the right one for sure.
Yeah, that's what
I would say.
That's a great piece of advice right there. That's one thing I kind of used to tell a lot of students of mine was like, you know, I always used to tell this story of like a baby seal. I don't remember who wrote it, but there was like this little short story about this baby seal that was like saved and by like a pack of dogs, you know what I mean? And he would like walk around with the dogs and he was all fucking awkward on the land. And, you know, he was always like, man, why am I so fucking weird? And then like once he finally got in the water, he realized he could fly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes you just need to find your water. And sometimes that's drums, guitar. You know, if you're not really clicking with something, sometimes you just need to change it up. Great piece of advice.
Thank you.
What was your first guitar? Do you remember?
Yes, I had an Ibanez. It was like a blue and purple burst Ibanez bass, and that actually got misplaced at a local show that we played at Geo's of all places.
Rest in peace, Geo.
Got misplaced, but I unfortunately had a Epiphone Thunderbird as a backup, so I played that for many years, and now I'm rocking a P bass. So
very cool. What does your current bass look like? Is it just?
Yeah, it's the red. It's like a red burst P bass.
Nice.
2 little pickups on the bottom.
How long have you been using that one?
I've been using that one since Poison Peace started and Cascades ended, so probably like 4 years now.
What are some of the bands that inspired you when you were young to write music?
Oh, totally. Well, I'm gonna go off the top.
Like
you know,
first
pop
started.
punk kid, Blink-182.
There you go.
That's the big one. I grew up listening to AC/DC. I just loved AC/DC, and not just like the music they did, but how they rocked for so long and how old they were, and their live. I actually seen AC/DC twice live, and just those live performances are just like, wow, you know, you guys are still doing this, and like you're still loving it. But then like back to like the really like slow stuff like Iron and Wine and Bon Iver, stuff like that. It's kind of like molded me into like the Midwest emo. Yeah. You know, when I got into like bands like, you know, the Wonder Years and Free Throw and Modern Baseball. Yeah. And stuff like that.
Very cool. Oh, what's your favorite Citizen album?
Oh, God. Put me on the spot here, Lamb. I have to come back to that. I'm going to have to come back to that one.
What are some of the bands that you like listening to now? Whether, you know, it could be Midwest emo, just anything. What are you listening to nowadays?
Gosh, you know, and I've been listening to a lot of like Doechii, which is like rap, like super like, you know, a female rap artist who I've been really into. MAUL.
Hell yeah.
Not gonna lie. You know, I listen to like some underground hardcore stuff like that, you know, Sunami and stuff like that. I listen to a lot of local music, whether it's Baltic, Spec. I mean, I don't know. I like supporting my hometown homies, and so I end up listening to a lot of local music.
Speaking of Sunami, I missed out on like perhaps the funniest joke of all time. We played in a venue that they were playing at. They were in the upstairs room, which is like 1,000 cap venue. Like it was packed, and people were going wild. And we were downstairs. I think it was in. I can't remember. I wanted to say it was Georgia, but I can't remember. Anyways, Sunami was playing upstairs, and I was like, man, maybe I can take a little peek, you know what I mean? And I saw them for like 2 seconds, but after the show, we're like loading the bus up, and the vocalist comes outside, and there's like a small line of like maybe 4 or 5 people like in line getting selfies with him and like dabbing him up, you know? And I'm like sitting, like leaning against the back of the bus, looking all cool. And I had this thought for a moment. I was like, damn, I should hop in that line, get a selfie, and then post it online. Like, always good to meet a fan, you know? I bitched out though. I was like, I don't want the heat, bro.
Thanks for coming to the mall gig.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, dog.
Appreciate your support.
I wish it was like I only had like a minute to make that decision. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I should have done it though. That's my biggest tour regret of my life, was not punking Sunami when I had the chance. Hopefully I get to see them again. They were, you know, I only got to see them for like 15 seconds, but man, they're pretty tight. They were hype. Like, they had people going wild. Like, even between the songs, people were still stage diving. It was hilarious. They're fun. What's your favorite Blink-182 album?
It's got to be Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. It's got to be.
Nice. What are some of the, growing up, were there any like guitarists or bassists that you kind of like looked up to and wanted to kind of model your own style around?
Gosh, I hate to keep bringing up Blink-182, but like Mark Hoppus, and Tom DeLonge in their own ways. I mean, with Blink and Angels and Airwaves, I really fucked with those guys pretty hard, and I was like, wow, those guys are so cool, and their stage presence is so cool, and they kind of suck at playing their instruments, as do I, but they're still cool. So I was like, I'm gonna be Mark Hoppus when I grow up. I'm gonna have a pink guitar, which I never ended up getting.
Yeah. Blink for me too was like, I remember like kind of listening to them in my teens, but I was like listening to like Alkaline Trio,
totally,
and like other things like adjacent to Blink-182, but I just didn't like Blink-182 because everyone else loved Blink-182. You know what I mean? And then it's funny because like as I've gotten older, I love them. Like I still go back and listen sometimes. I never really like quite enjoyed them. I feel like when I was young, just because they were so popular already.
Sure.
Not, you know what I mean? Just because like when I was young, I was like, eh.
Right? Yeah. Like, oh, no way.
Yeah.
But they're just fun.
But they're still writing good music.
They are, and they're just fun dudes, and I don't know.
The first time I ever made like a music video was literally Adam's song, and I didn't even know that was like Blink-182. You know what I mean? Because I didn't really listen.
Right. I'm gonna put this song on. Yeah, sounds cool.
And it was funny because like me and my buddy Mike and Quentin literally like made like all the scenes happening. Like he had a glass of orange juice and spilled it in the hallway. You know what I mean? Like, and his mom's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It was so funny. Gosh, I gotta find that video. You said you don't really have music online. Do you guys have like a game plan for when you're going to record and release music? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so we've been putting the feelers out there. We've talked to a few people, in Bismarck, Sioux Falls, Minneapolis. We'll see where we want to go, but we kind of have the equipment to do it ourselves.
Yeah. And
so I think we might just do some scratch tracks in our practice space and have Justin do that. He has a really cool interface, and from there, at least get something out there.
Yeah, that's one thing I always kind of recommend is, even if it's like 1 or 2 songs.
Yep,
or,
like a demo or an EP.
They don't got to sound perfect.
Nope.
They just got to get the vibe across, So
that's hopefully coming here soon this spring.
Are you going to do a couple songs? What do you have like a goal on how many songs you're going to do?
Yeah, so basically our set right now, we have a pretty cool 5-song set, so we'll probably do like a 5-song demo EP, and then have a couple singles in the works as well after that.
What's like the weirdest or strangest place you've ever played a gig? Maybe a place that made you a little uncomfy, felt a little unsafe, or just awkward.
Yeah, not in this band per chance, but in prior bands, there's a place in Carbondale, Illinois called the Lost Cross House, and they're like one of the longest running punk rock houses, like DIY venues in the country. And they've had bands been playing there since like the 90s. I played there with Grazing and Winter Diets in like 2016, and man, you know, when when someone says, yeah, there's these couches up for grabs to lay down on, or this room here's, or we all slept in the van instead, you know, it's going to be a little sus. But we got pulled over on our way there, and the cop that pulled us over, we had North Dakota license plates, and he thought that our tabs expired in 2012, but that's when they were issued.
Yeah.
But he wasn't aware of that. So instead of getting a ticket, we talked our way out of it, obviously. But then he was like, "Where are you guys going?" We said, "The Lost Cross House." He said, "Oh, I used to party there all the time." We're like, "Wow, the cops used to party here."
That's funny.
And they're offering up all these couches. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So that was probably one of the sketchiest places. Not even sketchy, just dirty and nostalgic and awesome.
Yep. That's a great explanation for a house show. Cool. So do you guys have any like plans for kind of going on the road or anything like that? Or are you going to kind of keep it in the FM?
So we don't really have the transportation to do that. We're kind of keeping it in the FM for now. You know, we'd love to go to Grand Forks, Sioux Falls, you know, within a day, you know, half day's travel.
Yeah.
And then we just moved into a practice space with the No Divinity Boys. So, you know, they have that van that we could potentially borrow. Yeah. Shout out Chama.
Yep.
If we need to. But
it's kind of like
we're kind of just taking it as we go. A lot of local shows. We've been having to say no to shows now, which is kind of cool. Our next one's not until April. We're just taking the time off to write and, you know, get even more than an EP ready for us.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're about to pull the plug on the podcast. Before we pull the plug, Michael, is there anything you would like to plug?
Well, I would just like to say this is super cool, and thanks for having me, Lamb. Tune in for the next one for sure. If you want to check out Rana Danta, our next gig and our only gig booked is April 8th. I believe it's a Tuesday, and I believe it's with Loom and a few other out-of-towners. So come on out and check us out, see what we're up.
Very
see
awesome.
What we're up to.
If people are trying to find you online, do you have like a certain handle or anything?
Yep. So we have an Instagram, Rana Danta, all lowercase, and then we did just make a Facebook recently. So we have Facebook and Instagram at the moment.
Awesome. Those links will be in the description below as well. Michael, thank you so much, bud, for joining me for the podcast today. Can't wait to have you and the boys back on.
Hey, thank you so much.
Also, don't forget to check out our Patreon at Jam with Lamb. We're going to have some cool behind-the-scenes footage, some extended episodes and commentary with certain guests, and then also some videos of me actually jamming with the guests and going through some rig rundowns, things like that. So if you want some extra content and you want a little more deeper dive into a certain artist, you can find that over at the Patreon. Once again, my name is Anthony Lamb. Thank you for tuning in, and keep rocking.